Okay, you should only be watching this video if you have finished the first and the second quiz, in which case, congratulations, you are almost finished with memorizing your full year of science vocabulary. So we're starting off with biofuels. Biofuels are like fossil fuels, they just haven't been compacted under the earth and pressurized and made more powerful and efficient for hundreds of millions of years underneath the earth. So biofuels are fuel, they blow up because they're fuel, from today's plants and animals. Let's see, a resource is something you use, like a pencil. So the resources in a pencil would be wood and graphite. Renewable, you can make more in a lifetime. Make sure you remember this means making more, not actually recycling it. Making more things like wood, for example, is renewable because you can plant more trees. Non-renewable is something like aluminum, right? Even though you can recycle it, if you want to actually make more, you're out of luck because all the aluminum on Earth was there since the beginning. You can't have baby aluminum or more aluminum. So non-renewable, you shake your head and you say it takes more than a lifetime to replace. Just while you're looking at the watch, it takes too long. Conserve is resource. That's that pencil. Saving, so you put your hand in your pocket like you're saving something. Alternative energy, so it's other choice, not fossil fuels. So alternate energy is another way of generating electricity or another form of energy that does not involve fossil fuels. They're also renewable. Alternative energy examples, these are all the different things that you've already memorized from the last card set, but you need to know that these are the things that make up alternative energy. So you got wind, and then you're doing the movements for each one of them. Wind, hydroelectric, right, that water turning the turbine, geothermal, biofuels, is plants and animals, and solar. Now you don't need to say the phrases for each one of those, you're just doing the movements. Organism, so organism is a living thing. Remember that it can also be described as the biotic components of the ecosystem. Trait is something that describes that organism. Remember that it has to describe that actual organism. That example from the test where it's like, the plants and the lobster's environment, that's not actually describing that organism, that's just describing its environment. Inherited for a trait is from the parent's genes. You're taking it like you're getting a gift. Structural is body, and it's supposed to be kind of like a staircase, like a structure. Acquired, change during life, which is just like the one thing the scientist changes for variable. Acquired is change during life. Instinct, so instincts are things like blinking or reflexes or things like that. So it's inherited, not learned, so they all do this. And blinking is supposed to be the example there. Behavioral, what you do, and so that's similar to mechanical energy. Learned behavior is new ability. Adaptation is a trait that gives you an advantage to survive, like in your environment. So the example here is webbed feet for an aquatic animal like a duck, helps it survive. Environmental pressure, what makes it hard to survive. So like in a desert, it would be the lack of water. In a rainforest, there are a lot of predators. Adult, mature organism can reproduce. So you pretend like you have like a little baby there. Incomplete metamorphosis. So for incomplete metamorphosis, it's nymph sheds skin to change into adult. So it's like you're peeling off your skin. Oh, you're supposed to surprise for adult, right? So nymph sheds skin into adult. Complete metamorphosis is egg, you're like hunched over, larva, pupa, and adult. And so when you're adult, you kind of like pop out. Sorry, my camera is not quite wide enough to capture that whole thing. Let's see, producer. So plants make their own energy from sunlight. That also might be called vegetation. Glucose, you do the same sign for plant, but that's the actual sugar that they're making when they make their own energy. So glucose is plants make sugar from sunlight. Primary consumer are animals that eat plants. Secondary consumer, animals that eat other animals. And you just got like a frog or a bunny there or something. I thought we just had that. Producer, glucose, primary consumer, secondary consumer. Sorry about that. Decomposer. So bacteria or fungi, that's like fungus but more than one, kind of like mushrooms. So bacteria or fungi break down, and so you got like a whole piece and you break it down into the components. So bacteria or fungi break down dead plants and animals. So bacteria and fungi break down dead plants and animals. Remains. So these are the decomposing bodies of dead plants and animals. Pretty much the same, actually I think it is the same symbol as decomposer. Scavenger. So before decomposers, they eat what's available. So they're eating whatever, right? They're eating dead bodies, they're eating like the sick animals or diseased animals, whatever they can manage. Like an example of this is like a coyote or a vulture. They're not exactly decomposers because they're still animals, they can still move around. They're not bacteria, they're not fungus, they're still animals. It's just they also sometimes eat dead things before the decomposers can start to decompose them. A predator eats the prey, right? So like you're actually pouncing on the prey, and the prey is eaten by the predator, so you get scared and eaten. Grazer or cattle are animals that mow the grass, so you kind of just show like the mouth of, I guess, a cow going along grassland eating the grass. So those would also be primary consumers, but it's a specific kind of primary consumer that particularly eats grass. Omnivore, so an animal that eats both plants and animals. By the way, this would be considered a secondary consumer because as soon as you eat any animals, that's considered a secondary consumer. It's just more specific. So oxygen, plants breathe it out, animals and fire breathe it in. Carbon dioxide, animals and fire breathe it out, plants breathe it in. If you reverse that and do it in the opposite order, that's fine too. I think I kind of messed up the description of the action down there. It says breathe in first, but it doesn't matter as long as you get the right things breathing in and the right things breathing out. Habitat, where you live, right? So you're just making a house over your head. Biome is the type of ecosystem. The ecosystem is like all around you because it's the living and non-living things working together in an environment. So the living and non-living things in an environment. This handshaking kind of thing means that they are working together, right? The sun, the water work together with the plants to produce oxygen and energy, which the animals eat. So it's all those things like working together in order for life to happen. Symbiotic is a lifetime together, and then you have like a little heart, or you can do that either way. But those are animals like Finding Nemo, right? You have the clownfish and you have the sea anemone, and those each of those things get a benefit from their relationship with each other. Or you might have seen like sharks swimming around with those cleaner fish that will actually like help them with dental problems because they'll take out little bits of fish that are still in their teeth. But the sharks won't actually eat the cleaner fish because they help them not get nasty teeth infections, or tooth infections rather. Invasive species, so that's a newcomer out of control. So you're supposed to like come in and you're like strutting, which is basically like you're walking like you're all that or whatever. It's not really enough room to strut in this office. Let's see, aquarium. So aquarium is a model water ecosystem, right? Ecosystem is all around you. So it's a model water, like you're swimming, like liquid, and ecosystem, right? So model water ecosystem. I don't know why I'm messing that up. A model water ecosystem. It's because we used to do the water part like you're swimming, which that would be fine too. Terrarium is a model land or model terrestrial ecosystem, right? So it's on land. It's the opposite of aquatic, or the opposite of aquarium. A terrarium is you'll have maybe a turtle with some land and like some plants and things like that. It'll be a model land ecosystem. Migration. So this is bad weather, no food or mate. Adaptation is move it. right? And so it's like if you're facing those things, some animals have adaptations under those conditions to move. So bad weather, no food or mate, you shrug, and then the adaptation is move it. Compete, and so you're supposed to put your hands up like you're boxing or whatever, and so it's race for the same food, water, or space. So two animals that compete, like, you might have, for example, a cheetah and a lion are competing over the same, antelope for food, for example. Or a cactus and a shrub might be competing over the same water. Hibernation, this is kind of like migration, right? So you have like some kind of problem and then you have an adaptation for it. So too cold and no food, adaptation is super nap. And then you just pretend like you're going to sleep. The tundra is too cold for trees, so when you get really far north or really far south, closer to the poles, it actually gets to the point where it's too cold above the ground for trees to be able to grow, so the only plants that are around are ones that hug the surface of the ground because it's a little bit warmer on the ground. So you say tundra, too cold for trees, right? Because the only plants that are down here are the ones that are very short and close to the ground to stay warm, so you won't find any trees in the tundra. The taiga is a little bit warmer, but still very cold. You don't have the normal trees that we have, like where the leaves drop in the fall and the winter. Instead, they're pines, which look like, people think of them as Christmas trees. And so those pine needles let the snow fall through, but also it's like cold all the time, so there's no real reason to let the leaves drop in the winter. They just keep them all year round because it's cold all year round. So it's chilly, evergreen forests, and you can go like that, pretend like a Christmas tree, or you can go like that, pretend like your Christmas tree. Just pretend you're like a Christmas tree. Or a pine tree. Rainforest is too many predators and not enough space. So this is supposed to be like all the different trees and things that are covering up the sun. It's very hard for plants in the rainforest to get enough sunlight. It's hard for everything to get enough space. And because there's so much water, there's so much sunlight, there's so much life in the rainforest, that means there's a lot of predators. So it's too many predators and not enough space. The source is where something comes from. This is used in a whole bunch of different science contexts. But you have basically someone's house, you're walking away, and you say the source, where something comes from. And so this guy walked out of his house, and so this is where he came from. Source, where something comes from. Water cycle. So these are each of the steps of the water cycle. I just kind of realized that you guys knew the steps, but you didn't realize kind of the order of the steps and that they were all part of the water cycle. Some students didn't. So water cycle is the stuff that you should already know. But water cycle, evaporation, right? Condensation. You form that cloud for the condensation. Precipitation. And accumulation, which is runoff and groundwater, right? So you have evaporation with solar energy, liquid to gas. You don't have to say these phrases. You just say what it is, and you say the word. So remember, evaporation is solar energy, liquid to gas. Condensation is gets cold gas to droplets of water. Precipitation is drops to heavy fall, and accumulation is runoff when it slides down the hill, and groundwater. So it's water cycle, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and accumulation. What's going on? Oh, that's actually the end. I didn't realize. So that's word 128. That's it. I know there's some hard ones in here, but that's all the words for the entire year. You should be in great shape if you can get all these 3 vocabulary tests, or all these vocabulary card sets finished before the STAR test. Don't wait too long. Make sure you're studying it well before you need to get them memorized. And as soon as you do, congratulations, that is a big deal. That will really help you get you a long way towards passing your STAR Science this year. Alright, thanks for watching the video. Rewatch it again if you need to, rewatch it again if you're going to need to practice, right? You should be doing the motions at the same time that I'm doing them now and listening to the explanations of listening to the explanations of like what everything means and why we're doing it. Don't forget to study your other vocabulary words because the last test has all 3 sets of vocabulary words in it. All right, thanks and good luck.